Counting the.
Cost the impact of my childhood on my current teaching experience.
Wow. So how was your childhood, Richie?
Well, my childhood was definitely not an easy one per se. Growing up in different cultures, moving from one region to another. To start off, I I grew up originally grew up in the Caribbean. I'm from Grenada, where my home country is, and I've lived there for the first 10 years of my life. And the first 10 years of my life of growing up there, I went through many different experiences of I'm a pastor's kid, by the way, so like I went through the experiences of growing up there, and the culture and the food, everything to me there was pretty normal. And then at the age of 10, my parents migrated, and we moved over to America. So when we moved to America, I got a bit of a culture shock, and when at the same time when I moved there during 2001, and that was the same time during when September 11th happened, which is
Can
like
really? Can you do
probably
that in the room?
the biggest
Oh.
change in my entire life. Knowing that there when I went through September 11th,
Yeah.
and the things that followed up from there, when I went through public school during that time. I went through, the bullying, the harassing, and of course, you can kind of see what my skin color looks like. I'm going through a lot of going through that system, and the system is still not perfect, even after years of me teaching and being in there. After everything that I went through of, the harassment, bullying, everything that transfigured in that environment overall, I still, still how, by the grace of God, I don't know, because, God wanted me back in there. I didn't even want to, I didn't even want to be a teacher at one point. I graduated with, from college with a degree in business education. And to be honest, I never really wanted to be a teacher at that point when I graduated. I was like, I don't want to go back and teach these kids, these same kids that, literally abused me when I was in the system, when I was a student now. But things have changed, when I went through the different grades. Growing up, I came there in grade 5, went through the whole experience. And the students there, Americans have their way of showing their gratitude, I guess you would say that. And, I was bullied, I was name called, I would get the names Osama, Afghani, Iraqi, um, every name you could pick up in the book overall. And I have none of that actually is going on in my blood, like at all. Like if some students actually knew that I was Scottish, they'd be shocked.
Wow.
That's still amazing. Like my last name, Wildman, it's Scottish, and when if they actually found out, oh my gosh, he's actually Scottish, really. I come from Scottish descent. They would be really really shocked to find that out. And I went through grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 years of my life in that system, all the way up until 12th grade, going through that entire experience. And it never changed, because why? Because America's war on terrorism continued. I don't even know if that's what they want to call it. All the way from Bush to Obama, things were pretty much the exact same for me. And it's not like the education system can really do anything about it. And some parts I just learned to live with it. And whatever they call me, I know my worth in God's eyes, so I don't need these kids to try and devalue me to something else that I know that I'm not. And that's the thing, when that's when bullying takes its worst form. And I've seen it too, when I've had students too that get broken down parents shut down. And this generation now that we live in with the students now, when I used to teach, especially in New York City public school system, that the students, that when they're so fragile and so delicate that any little word, any little thing can have a serious impact on them, especially their image, especially what they look like. And some of them would take maybe 3-4 months off of school and say, oh, I'm taking a break. They don't want to hear or deal with any of what the students are telling them, and how they're being broken down so hard, because they just don't want to live with that or hearing that too. And I've seen it too, even as I've been teaching here in Korea, that I've seen the students, have that same kind of reaction, that same kind of thought process too. It's just like some of them, I've seen. Well, the worst cases of students I've seen in South Korea is that I've had a student. He was second year middle school, right? He's second year middle school, and he quit all his academies, right? Quit all his academies. He was leaving to go home during lunchtime and never came back to school after that. Didn't pay attention in class at all, and said that he's going to be famous and become a famous singer at at second year middle school. So I'm just wondering, what exactly is going on in this kid's head to realize, after his parents spend so much money and effort to try and get him so far in life, the sacrifices that your parents make. I really appreciate the sacrifices that my parents made for me when I was a lot younger. But now I think students now these days, they just really don't see the value of it. Even when I was teaching too, that I still, and I think it's only by God's love that that He called me back to be a teacher in the same system, that a lot of students take these things for granted, that now they can actually seriously get ahead in life. In high school now, what I used to teach something called the Cisco Academy in the high school system, and I used to teach there. That what happens now is that if you finish this course, right? If you finish this course and you finish the coursework and you get certified in this area at high school level, right? At high school level, if you finish this coursework from the Cisco Academy, you pass the CSET exam, the CENT exam, and then once you pass that, you can start making almost $60,000 a year. That's just that's as much as a bachelor's degree would give you off of this passing this one certification exam. That's amazing to think, and I would kill to have that if I was, these kids' age, to go and do something that amazing and to be able to do something like that. But a lot of students these days, they take it for granted, and it's really hard, from my generation to now their generation. And that despite all the bullying, the violence, and everything that I've been through, I mean, even in fifth grade, I got jumped one time, and that's what being jumped is like. When a bunch of students basically gang up and then they pin you to the ground and beat the holy Jesus out of you.
What does
Right?
that? What is that? What happens? One more time? Can you tell me again?
Yeah. So the term jumped, right? If you've ever heard about jumped, it's like when you basically get crowded around. It's like a whole bunch of let's say like a whole bunch of guys are like waiting for you after school, right? And it's like, okay, we're gonna get this guy. We're gonna beat him up, and we're gonna teach him a lesson, right? So basically, during recess time or like playtime, right? It's like, okay, this guy's Afghani. We don't like him. We don't like his skin. We don't like how he looks like. You know what? We're gonna beat him up and teach him a lesson about coming to America. And I was like, and I'm trying to prove him to you, I'm not Afghani. I'm not this. I'm not what you say. And then lo and behold, well, student, these guys that just got together, started beating me up. I found myself on the floor. I was on the ground. I got kicked in the back. I got kicked in the head. I got beat up pretty bad. I had to go to the nurse. I got an ice pack and everything after that. And it never stopped there. Never stopped there. It just kept on going. And some people would take that to heart. Thank God. chance or anything like that. It's only by God's grace. I think the prayers of my parents are a big thing too. Prayers of my parents are like a really, really big thing. And after being in the public school system for 1 year, my mom was like, yeah, my mom made serious sacrifices. She said, okay, um, she wanted to do it initially, but she didn't have the money to do it. But she pulled, I don't know where she found the money from. When we first got to America, and then I think that's one of the reasons why my mom continues to be so qualified, because she doesn't want to see like anything like that happen to me again. After my mom has like 6 masters or whatever, right?
Six
So
masters?
yeah, she has like 6 masters or something. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
And she already finished one PhD, and now she wants another one, and I'm just here struggling to do one master's.
Wow, 6 masters and one PhD and doing another PhD?
Yeah, she wants to do another one.
Man, that's crazy.
Like my mom, like she's she's a she's a crazy lady. Like her room is like over there, and like yeah, she didn't hear what I say, but yeah, it's just I think from maybe my experiences are like that, so that my mom would definitely, like any parent would react, if their child went through something as dramatic as I went through. I'm pretty sure any parent would do that, or trying to avoid the public school system altogether now. Like for me overall, if I really have to pray about the Christian Adventist or the Christian education system. I really don't see the values that you want your kids to have from that system are changing so much that it's basically the same thing. I was having this talk the other day with some elders and some other people from Korea, and they're just basically saying that it's pretty much essentially the same thing right now, and there's almost no difference at all between that. Well, when it comes to Korea, now I kind of want to figure out the same thing for America. If it's becoming like that in America, I really have to think about that too. Like if I ever have children in the future, I don't think I want them in any of the schooling systems at all, because I know that it's essentially starting to become the same thing. But one thing I know that's becoming more popular are the online education systems, and those things still have principle in it. Those Christian education systems, and I'm hearing more about it now, especially as I'm doing my master's, that they're becoming a really really good place. One place I heard about too is the Tree Angels Academy, which is a really good place. If you're thinking about a good place where your child could continue to have their morals, like I'm talking to you out there, YouTube audience, try the Tree Angels Academy. They're an international academy, and if you want your kids to behave and be good and still have their morals, try that academy. And especially if you want them to learn some good English too, that's a good academy. So that's my answer to that one.
So you've talked about this functional system that you have witnessed from public school system in America, uh, even Adventist Christian ones here. So have you ever found someone that has demonstrated complete opposite healing impact on you when you're so broken and you're so hurting? Have you ever seen one of those savior figures in whether they're teachers or friends or neighbors?
Yeah, my group of friends were relatively very small because I never really stood out because of that. Because in high school too, I only had like very 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 small group of friends. I had my one best friend. He was a year older than me. He was my senior, and I could relate to him and at that personal level, and really we come to terms of understanding and be able to talk about a lot of issues and things that we're going through, and we still are very very good friends. Recently, not too long ago, I know he got married too, which is great, and it comes to not just having savior figures like that in my life, when reaching out to those people, I really think, my teachers had a really big impact on me because they never ever gave up on me, despite the odds about them. And that's the kind of teacher, I want to be. And my ultimate savior overall, especially as I um, was about to go back into the teaching system and I was running away from it. I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. It's like, why why would I kill myself, trying to be a public schools teacher again in the New York City Department of Education schooling system. And I was just like, what? Who in their right mind would do something like that? But I read this little book. It's called Steps to Christ. And when I read that book, I was like, man, all right, God, if you want me to do this now, right? If you, it's a real serious thing. You gotta show me, what I need to do as a teacher, right? You really have to show me what I to do. And what he told me to do? He said that, oh, you gotta love these students as I've loved you. When I read that book, it showed me God's love, and I was like, all right, the same love that you telling me about Jesus in this book, right? I'll try and do the same thing with those students, right? And I could definitely testify to some of the students that I've had an impact with. And while I was in Korea, I had a student that I taught previously, and she was in 10th grade at the time when I was teaching in New York. She wrote me back a message, right? And she told me that she got my contact information. She said that, man, Miss, you left a really big impact on me. And I was like, oh, really? And it's like, all right. So here's the message that she wrote me, right? And she says, thank you for your warm blessings, Mr. Wildman. You always used to tell me the advantages of taking the Cisco exams and Nocti exams. And we had the pre-Nocti exam in our school, and I got the highest marks among all students who took this exam. As soon as my Cisco teacher and assistant principal told me this news, I remembered you because I wouldn't have studied it if you didn't, if I wasn't aware about it. The positive outcomes of the CCNA exam and the Nocti exam or the CSIN, I message you to thank you. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Take care there too, Mr. Wildman. May God bless you too. And that's one of the happiest and proudest moments I had as a teacher. That I told her that God bless her and keep her and make her strong, and that it's only because of God, only because of Jesus that I'm in her life to begin with. Because if it wasn't for Jesus, I would not be there as your teacher at all. Trust me on that.
Wow.
That's what I try to tell a lot of my students. They say, like, oh, Mr. Wellman, I would not be here without you, or like my life wouldn't have been so and so. Oh, it's not me, man. It can never be me. I'm sorry. I talk to my students as just as Jesus told me. He said, these are God's sons and daughters, and they're also, as me as a teacher, I call them my sons and my daughters. They're my handsome sons and my beautiful daughters. That's what I call them. And I tell them too, it's like, oh, I would never, ever be here if it wasn't for Jesus. Because why? Because to love you students, to love these kind of students, needs a special kind of love. And I don't have it. I seriously don't have it. I don't have it in me to love any of you guys. But that love only comes from God. In all seriousness.
It sounds like you are an overcomer of hatred and feeling intense feelings of revenge and all these things. And um, don't you sometimes feel like you're missing out in the real fun in your life if you can't get even with those that have hurt you? So what kept you from taking those vindictive measures? And how did you decide to come back to a place where that really hurt you? And how did you decide to heal those broken students that are perpetually hurting and hating the weak ones? Wh- how did that process work?
It's it's a real difficult process for me, you know. As I said, you know, one of the big things was for me reading that little book, Steps to Christ. You know, it's a life changer. I know it's in Korean too, and it made the biggest difference in me being a teacher. Also, the book Education. If you've ever read that book, Education by Ellen G. White, or you know, Steps to Christ by Ellen G. White, those books make a huge difference in you being the firm teacher, right? And it's not just me, but you know, the biggest teachers in New York City, right? The Let me see if I can't remember her name right now, but one of the biggest doctors in the school of New York State University, she said that the book Education gives the firmest foundation that every teacher needs to abide by, and we need it now more than ever for every teacher to read this book, Education, so that they can seriously be the teachers now that we need in this age. Not and she's not Adventist, she's not Christian, she's not nothing. She had no religious ties or anything, but she said that the book Education makes the biggest difference in being a teacher. And I was just like, wow, man, this lady, she has, you know, high PhD degree, educated doctor, whatever, you know, and she's saying all these things, and she's not even a Christian to say this stuff. I was just like, what? You know, I'm utterly amazed by hearing that. And I've had so many encounters with so many crazy students in my life. Some of my students, you know, would come in uh, drugged up, high when I was working in the public school system. I had one student, you know, he came in, he was high in marijuana. He ate a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich for breakfast. He came in for early morning class. He came in, he spun around on the floor, he fell down on the ground in the floor, and then I was having a panic. You know, this student caused me so much pain and suffering in the classroom too, right? But I was, you know, I was more concerned about that's when you push everything aside. You know, this is when you have to really worry and care, and it's only because of God's love. You know, so I don't know. Some teachers may have just stood by and watched them, you know, die. But I said, you know, I had to. I called in the other teacher, the head teacher. I couldn't leave him alone because I didn't want him to be on the ground there. You know, like he's there in a state that I don't even know what's going on, and I didn't want to leave him alone. I called for help. I called the other teachers. Then what do you know? Who else came? The head dean came. The assistant, my principal came. My supervisor came. The principal came. The police came. The paramedics came. Everything came during that time, and I was just like, wow. And I'm there, you know. I'm in the corner, and I'm just, you know, watching over my student. I'm like, whoa, I'm praying. I'm like, you know, and the paramedics and everybody's looking at me funny, and I'm just like, man, I just want this student to be alright. And you know, like because of that too, then he was rushed at a hospital. They diagnosed him. They cleaned up his system and everything. And you know, praying God's will, he came back to school the very next day. And I said that was a miracle. Yeah, I thought he was gonna die there right on the spot. I was like, I'm gonna lose my student right now. I'm like, Lord, please, no, I don't want to. You know, no matter how much trouble he caused, you know, he's still my student, and he's still a soul that needs to be saved too. And you know, whatever trouble he has may have caused me, he doesn't deserve to die. That's not, you know. And I'm pretty sure that some teachers like that, that you know, be um and the problem with that students have with me too, especially in the Korean culture, is that I don't yell, I don't shout at the students. I keep the same tone with them all the time. And no matter whatever, that's something that I've learned too, is that if I continue to have the same tone, I don't want to yell, I don't want to strain myself to get their attention. That's not me. And the students are, you know, really start up by it. So it's like he doesn't yell. You know, even when I was in the public school system, I never yelled. I never cursed at the students. I never got angry. I never got upset with them. I always tried to address everything in a peaceful manner. I was like, hey, why are you doing this? You know, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. You're a smart student. You know, you got your whole life ahead of you. If you're gonna play the fool like this, don't play it like this. Don't mess up your life like that. Because you got a bright future ahead of yourself. I know God's got a great plan for you. You're gonna do amazing and wonderful things. But if you continue to play the fool like that, You're gonna mess up your own future. How are you gonna be able to take care of yourself? If you're gonna be taking care of your mom and your dad in your future, how are you gonna be able to make money and take care of your home and your family and get that nice apartment that you want, buy that nice car that you want? If you continue to play the fool like that with your education, you're gonna think you're gonna get places in life like that. Tell me no. Then do a better job. You can do better. And I'm here every step of the way for you too. If you need help, you need anything, you need any questions or anything, let me know. I'm there to help you out. And students that, I try to go the extra mile for, that have been broken down, the student, they come to me and, because I tell them, my son, my daughter, they start talking to me. It's because they don't have that love at home. Some of them don't even have the fathers in their homes too. And they come to me and tell me, oh, hi dad, I love you. I'm not your dad. But I don't have a dad, so you're my dad. I can't say no. I can't tell them, oh, you can't call me dad. I'm not your dad. You shouldn't be calling me dad, but I can't tell them no. Because they don't even have a father in the house to tell them that they love them and that they care for them. And, that takes a lot. It takes a lot, to even reach that level. And it only comes, from above. And when I made those times and that opportunities, when I even went far, breaking the rules in a public system, praying with some of these students too and telling them, oh, one student told me, Mr., I'm having such a hard time. I have the math test coming up and I don't think I'm going to do well. It's one of my worst subjects. It's like, man, when I was in the public school system and I told the student, right, that, her birthday was on the same day with the test. And that was really heartbreaking for her. So I told her, all right. So I called her over. I told her, give me 2 minutes, right? Just give me 2 minutes of your time. That's all I need right after class. Just give me 2 minutes. So I called her over after class and I told her, sweetie, her name is Crystal. I called her, Crystal, we're gonna pray, right? I want to pray for you and your exams, all right? And I pulled out my favorite quote from education, and I read that quote to her right before I prayed. I told her, higher than the human thought is God's idea for His children. Godliness, Godlikeness is a goal to be reached. And then after I read that whole quote, I prayed with her, and I told her, I asked God for wisdom and understanding for her to do well in her exams and everything. And right after, as soon as I finished praying, tears, like she was bawling and crying so much because you made the effort for these students to show them that somebody cares for them. Despite every negative thing that has happened to me, despite every negative thing that may have happened to them in their homes, some of them are coming from such broken homes where their parents don't even wake them up to tell them anything good at all. They tell them, some of these parents, when they come to parent-teacher conference, they tell them that, oh, you're worthless, you're this, you're that, you're nothing, you're never going to amount to life. But I try to tell my students as much as possible that here's something, that God loves you. And you're going to amount to something, that's the character of love. And the student, she's bawling and crying. I'm saying, oh, what's wrong? She reached out and she hugged and she was like I thought my rib cage was gonna break because I was just and I had to escort her to class because the bell was next bell was about to ring. So I told the teacher, what was happening. She's really hung up and about doing well in the test, and then after she did the test, I bought her something nice. I bought her a little cake for her birthday too, because her birthday was the next day. A nice little vegan cake for her birthday, and she liked that because there's a vegan place across the street from my high school I used to work at too, so that was really nice. So she was really happy about that. And when she did her test, the math test, it was a state exam, by the way, that she had to do. And if she doesn't get a good grade on it, she wouldn't be able to graduate. So, when she did the exam, she told me that she got in the 90s.
Oh.
Praise God.
Well,
you know.
it sounds like love is more powerful than revenge, and peace is more powerful than violence. It seems that it sounds like good is more powerful than evil. And you didn't get back at people that hurt you. You rather turned around and heal those people or heal those places that have wounded you. So, so what is your future plan as a teacher?
Well, my future plans now. I'm currently in South. Well, I'm not currently there in South Korea right now, but I'm working in South Korea. I'm still having the same experiences, some very similar experiences that I've had in New York here in South Korea. When I've had some some difficulties with the school that I've been working with over the last year or so now, because they're realizing, the kind of teacher that I am, and they want to get rid of me, even though I'm showing, as much love as I can to my students. And then some of them thought, I was going to be leaving the school. I remember when one of them thought, oh, she asked me, oh, are you going to be leaving the school, teacher? Are you going to be leaving? And then I told her I'm not too sure, if the school decides to get rid of me, because I think the school might get rid of me. And she's like, and then she told me, like, when one of them hugged me, then another one's tried to hug me and said, no, no, and then the way how these students address me too is like, no, Dad, don't leave, Dad, please don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, these students, and I would have a really hard time leaving the school, even though at times I do wish I kind of want to leave the school, because the school doesn't really have morals anymore. There are times like that, but overall, it's wherever God has me to be, and He has me to be at this particular school for a reason. Especially, when I have to deal with students like that don't want me to leave, even though I kind of want to leave, but then they don't. They tell me, oh, teacher, you're not allowed to leave. They tell me, oh, you need to stay in Korea, get married to a Korean, and live in Korea forever. And I'm just like, what gives you guys the right to plan out my life like that? Well, teacher, you have to become Korean too, because you're not allowed to go back to America. So I don't have any rights at all when I come to your school. It's like, no, teacher, we own you. You are a teacher forever. It's like, no, you're our dad forever. But what about your real dad? Oh, teacher, I don't like my real dad. You're my real dad. How would your dad feel? Oh, it's okay, teacher. Dad. Oh, okay. I don't know what to tell them sometimes. It's just, but overall, I think it's whatever God has for me in the future. And as much as I can, I just want to, don't don't bring hate. I know one of the big things with hate too, that I definitely want to reach out to the Korean audience too, that they have a lot of hate for the Japanese still, and that hate is still not over into the students, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, you just have to just say the J word, and my students would blow up. It's like, teacher, I hate Japan. Don't ever talk about Japan ever in this classroom, ever, ever. And I'm just like, wow, that's a lot of hate. And if you could really show people that love too, I have every right. I have every right to be mad and upset at some of these students too. In New York, rather New York, Korea, it don't matter. I have every right to be mad, to be upset, and show hate too. But that's not something that I want to work with as well. And I know it's something for a fact that doesn't work, and it doesn't help in teaching your students either.
Mm.
So like, if you really want to be a good teacher, if you really want to grow as a teacher, show them love. Show them that you care, and show them that you're willing to be and every step with them with the way, for their careers, and wherever they may go in life. And it could be something as simple as just telling them happy birthday. If you remember their birthdays or their names, they light up. It's like, when I call, after I see like alumni students come back to the school, and I call them by their names, and it's like, oh, was your birthday recently?" Or you tell them happy birthday, you call them the name from the Korean school that I've been working at, and they just light up. It's like, oh, teacher, you remember my name? Oh, teacher, you remember my birthday? Oh, teacher, I love you. It's just something as simple as that, and they would light up.
Wow, that's great. The power of authentic relationship that brings to a broken world, broken school, broken system, broken family, broken relationships. This sounds really amazing. It's been very inspiring to hear your story of how your childhood experience, instead of turning you into a bitter person, through that experience you learned mercy, you learned love. So you gathered warmth from the cold, and it sounds like a miracle, fantastic story. Do you think I can do this a few years later again?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, Richie.
Yeah, no problem.
I hope you enjoy your vacation with your family, and then you will come back safely to Korea, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're gonna keep staying here and marrying here and settling here and starting a family and everything. Oh, that's exciting. I sometimes think about starting a school, but it's not a small project. But you know, I just need to keep doing what I'm doing and see how big it's gonna end up becoming. So let us be faithful whatever we are, and I think it's only good things will come out. I realize my business has been growing 6 years consecutively. When I looked at the statistics, I was actually very shocked because sometimes I worry because the numbers fluctuate. But when I look at the overall yearly sum, I see continual upward growth every single year. So
Yeah.
I think
That's
it's
funny how you mentioned 6 years, because that's as long as I've been a teacher
yeah, it's
so
it's
far.
it's amazing. Yeah, that's the teaching experience I had after I quit teaching in school setting. So the very same way I was frustrated with the school system, and I started my own after school program in my own home, and it's been amazing. But I think wherever you go, wherever I am, as long as we apply that system of love, system of mercy, I think great things will happen, even in the midst of brokenness and ugly things that we see. And I'm pretty sure many people have been impacted by it, and we just need to keep going. Wow. Thank you so much, Richie, for making this time for the interview, and I'll
Yeah, no
see you
problem.
soon in Korea.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.